key that opens up the door to what is possible is truth. Let me repeat myself. The key that opens up the door to what is possible is truth. That statement is even more accurate when that truth flies in the face of everything that appears to be. When that truth goes against everything that you know, believe, or see. You see, as humans, it's almost like a default mechanism that we think only according to appearances. But I'm here to let you know that we need to see beyond appearances. To see sickness when we are surrounded by the appearance of sickness, that's easy. But to think health and the appearance of sickness, that demands that we look harder. We're all going to be faced with situations in our lives where we might see that it's impossible, where all appearances say there is no way. And when you're faced with that, I want you to remember this, that there is more than meets the eye. This is an idea that I teach people in my office all the time, those who I work with. And I'm going to share with you some ideas that will help you see beyond appearances, to look harder. This diagram right here is something that you'll see in almost any 1010 psychology class. Let me ask you, which line is longer? Before you begin to blurt out answers, let me show you how I created this diagram. It all started with this. I have this first little fun animation, copy and paste, moving over just in case you don't believe me. From here, it was just simple copy and paste, and move to its location. As you can see, as I constructed it, that they're the same length. Don't let appearances dictate how you think. Let me give you another example. Here's a picture of a road that I drive on every day. Who here drives on a road with those lines in the middle on a daily basis? Raise your hand. Let me ask you this question. How long are those lines on the road? When I ask my clients that question, a common answer I'll hear is like 3 feet, 4 feet. I'll tell you it's longer than that. What about 6 feet, as tall as I am? It's taller than that. It's longer than that. What about 8 feet? From the tip of my finger all the way down to my toes. Would you believe that it's longer than that? They are actually 10 feet long. If you don't believe me, go ahead and Google it. If you don't believe Google, here's a picture of me being dwarfed by one of these 10-foot lines. We must look beyond appearances. What I have right here is what's known as a Gallatin whistle. Let's hear what a Gallatin whistle sounds like. Did you hear that? No, of course you didn't. Because a Gallatin whistle is also known as a silent whistle or a dog whistle. It makes a sound at a frequency that the human ear cannot pick up. In fact, that lets us know that there's more than meets the ear, as well as more than meets the eye. There's even colors that the human eye can't pick up, that reindeer and butterflies can see. Do not let appearances dictate what you think. This might be kind of fun and dandy when it comes to a line or the length of a line. But it's a tragedy when appearances lead us down a path that we would have never done if we didn't have some appearance stopping us. And we live a life below our opportunities. I think a good example of that is the Lion King story from Disney. See, Simba was born to become king. He was excited to take his place in the circle of life and take on the responsibilities of being king. So much so, he sings a song, "I just can't wait to be king." But just like every great story, that's when the challenges start happening and tragedy strikes. Simba's uncle plots to become king by killing Mufasa, Simba's father, and banishing Simba. He tricks Simba to believe that it's his fault that his father died. I might add, he used appearances to do that. Simba went off to a land, off to a place to try to be by himself. Started thinking, I can't face my past. I'm not capable. Might as well just go off over here. And he started living with a warthog pig thing that could clear the savannah after every meal. And a rat that belongs at the bottom of the food chain, bossing everyone around. Little rat thing, I don't even know what it was called. And even though he was king, the king of the jungle, what did he eat there? Bugs. All because he was tricked by the appearance. It wasn't until he ran into his childhood friend Nala and potential mate that she woke him up to remind him what he was meant to become. And during his debate on if he could actually go back, if he was capable, he ran into Gurfihi, the wise sage. And he said, you need to look harder, but with a hard H. No, look harder. That's when Simba got the revelation that he was more than he had become. He began to believe that he could face his past and overtake his uncle to take his place in the circle of life. We all sometimes get trapped by the appearances and start believing lies that aren't real. And we have to see beyond appearances, to see the possibilities. In my life, growing up, I ran into that problem. I started going to school. I loved school. I thought it was going to be fun. I thought it would be great. But as I started learning, it was hard to read. I struggled with it. I remember hearing kids laugh at me when I was supposed to read out loud. You can't read that word? I started getting the appearance. I'm stupid. I got tests back, standardized tests. In these standardized tests, they'd have this score. It said 10 percentile. Basically saying that across the nation, 90% of my peers scored higher than me. I could look around my classroom and start counting 1, 2, all the way up to 9. I'm like, okay, they're all smarter than me. I started believing that learning was magic. Somehow they had some magical ability I didn't have. I'd wake up early with my mom to study. All right, let's work on it more. We would even start it with a word of prayer to get help from beyond. It wasn't until years later that my mom thought I was going to lose my faith in God because things continued to struggle. I didn't think I could do college. College wasn't for people like me. It wasn't until after I graduated from high school, just barely, I ran into an idea that changed me. I still remember exactly what I was wearing, where I was, when I read this idea. And this idea was basically presenting this idea that no one would ever plant a seed if they didn't think they could have a harvest. Or no one would ever seek an answer if they didn't believe that they could get an answer. And here's the thing that changed my life. You wouldn't seek wisdom and knowledge if you didn't believe that you would gain more wisdom and knowledge. Wow, for me that blew my mind. Here I'd done all this work, I had done all these things, I'd been really busy, but I didn't believe that I could do it. I didn't believe I could gain more wisdom and knowledge. Powered with that idea at the age of 21, when most people are finishing college, I stepped foot on my first college campus. I would spend so much time at the library. I would not be the one who would out be playing. My roommate started calling me the fun sucker. Once again, appearances. Oh, he's the fun sucker. When really I was the responsible one. I was the one driven by a dream. I was driven by that I could. that it was possible. People would ask me, hey, John, who are you dating? My answer, I'm dating Lucy Phillips. That was the name of the library that I studied so much at. I was not going to let the dictates of appearances determine what I was going to do anymore. I later went on to get a master's degree, which I think was a great feat for me. And in the process, I became more than what I started. I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I never was exposed to that idea that changed everything to me. I can probably tell you thousands of them at this point in my life, but I want to tell you one of them right now. I had this lady I was working with, senior in years. She came to my office. I've been working with her for a while, working through some trauma that affected her personal relationships throughout her life, emotional regulation, and her self-worth. I remember her stopping just before we got started on that session. She looked me in the eye and she said, John, I never thought it was possible that I could actually get better until I started working with you. I'd tell you it wasn't me. It was that same idea that convinced me that it was possible, that opened the door to possibilities. My friends, if you're faced with a situation that communicates there's no way, when all appearances tell you that it's impossible, I invite you, just like Grafihi invited Simba, to look harder. Because the very word says, I'm possible. If your life has been dictated by appearances, I invite you to sit down and imagine what you should be. Imagine what you could be. Imagine what you need to be to take your place in the circle of life. Thank you.